So yeah, Yaktik is definitely where my heart lies in the comics.
Yeah, if you want to get into voiceover, you got to do it because you love it. You can't do it because you want to be rich and famous, especially because you're legit doing a job that people don't know your face.
You know, in my comic, there's a number of sentient computers and video game consoles that have happened over the years.
I should have a film. I thought it was going to be the end of this year. I think it's going to be next year. There should be a film called Badness coming.
I think we're up to 6 Star Wars children's books now that I've illustrated.
I'm here!
I'm here.
The dork behind the drawing. No,
Yay!
don't look him directly in the face.
I draw cartoons for a living, and you can't tell me that the stuff that that we're producing nowadays is just for kids.
Heaven and Hell is now the longest running webcomic. I started in September 1995, and it's never missed a day since.
When I announced that I was voicing for Inuyasha's daughter, everyone was like, what? Like,
that was all well and good until, I was giving Phil a ride one day and he said, so how's your boyfriend? And I said, well, we're breaking up. And Phil said, oh, really?
Welcome everyone to Planet Flipside. I'm Vixen Littlepaw. How's everyone doing tonight? Oh, we're already going off on the comments. Hi everybody. Let's see. Ooh, we'll go first ones first. First we'll bring up Roseleaf. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
And then we're bringing up Mae Dean.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Ellipsis, are you ready, Ellie? Here we go. Hey, Princess Jessie, how you doing, honey? A little adopted girl in the comments. Alrighty, so how's everyone doing today? Did you have a good day today?
It's Friday, thankfully, so
You're here. You made it.
I'm vaguely alive. I've got a 3-year-old out in the other room that is responsible for most of my exhaustion. So
I understand. Aww. I got 3 of them. Oh, I'm doing pretty good, Jesse. Thank you. Caught my eye. So, where do we want to start? First of all these lovely people here are creators, online creators. Their links are in the description below, so you can check out their work if you haven't already, because we've been posting it in the Discord for 2 weeks now, I think. And if you haven't, you're in trouble. You're in big trouble. Hi, Rabbit. It's good to see you too. So, okay. First off, what do you do? What comic you all 3 work on comics and stories, correct? So I was like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I pretty much think I know what's going on here. So give me a little, Roseleaf, give me a little synopsis of what your story is.
Sure. I'm doing a story called Open Trade, about someone that is kind of letting there's a tech that lets you trade aspects of yourself with someone else, and kind of open it up for internet to kind of make those choices, kind of a social media, Twitch kind of environment, and kind of writing those out and kind of exploring themselves.
Awesome. That sounds great. In fact, it is great. Y'all have to read some of it. It's so much fun. Mae Dean, welcome back.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We love having you here.
Wearing the same thing I did in that little intro thing, so that's great.
Yes, I thought that was pretty cool. I didn't even realize. I'm like, ooh.
We went together.
Hey, I understand. I do 5 days a week, and I sometimes wear the same thing all the time.
That's fair.
So I get it. Can you tell us a little bit about your work?
Yeah, so I've been doing real life comics since 1999. I feel a little bit, I won't say silly being here, but a little bit like I'm breaking the rules because I have not done a comic since November, August, something like that. October. I got busy and I put it aside, and then I got a new job, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get back to it. I just have to,
I believe you.
I have to get my head straight, and then I'll get back to it. But I've been doing real life comics since 1999. I call it a semi-autobiographical comics that originally started off as a way of just sharing in jokes between me and my friends, and then quickly devolved into space travel, sentient computers, dimensional hopping, ridiculous things. But generally, I keep it relatively grounded. And then when I came out back in 2018, good lord, no, 2020 is when I actually came out, because that was a great year. I decided to work that aspect of my life into the comic, and took on kind of a whole new bent while still being the same continuous, ridiculous series of hijinks.
I think you did an excellent job at that too.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Ellie, how you doing?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm
Welcome
doing
back.
great. Thank you. I do Goblins. It's a comic about the low-level monsters in Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, it's. I came out just before you did, May, 2019, and I remember your character coming out, and I remember being like, "That's cool." But yeah, it's since I've transitioned, transgender things have sort of been slipped into my comic. Sometimes discreetly, sometimes not so discreetly, but yeah.
That's cool.
That's awesome. So what are we looking? How are we looking ahead, or are we going to see? Well, Mae Dean, you said you were going to do more comics. You promised.
I'm going to. I promise.
I'm the same way. Like I used to update once a week, and I remember like years ago, 5 years ago, I used to think, I only update once a week. That's not enough. I need to do more.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like I'm lucky if I get 2 pages done in a month, just because, like I've been going through so much, like transitioning. It's like a job in of itself. Like
it can be, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I totally stole May's answer.
You didn't sell it.
No, you're okay.
We're talking. I think I think that's really the same thing for me. Not the transition so much for me. It's mostly just that we have like 1,000 different side hustles going in this house. My wife is a doll customizer, and I'm very frequently, in fact, currently helping with that. Like I just off camera right here, I have a little electroplating set up because I'm electroplating 3D prints for her next doll project. So I'm doing a lot of that kind of creative stuff in the meantime. But it's hard to be creative in a writing way when things are crazy and hard. And I think that describes the last year of a lot of our lives pretty well. I would say.
I think things being crazy and hard helps with the writing after. Like after the dust settles, and you can be like, oh, that was a hard time in my life. It's over. Then that can help with the writing. But when you're in the middle of it,
when you're looking around and all you're doing, you're trying to distract yourself on social media, and it's nothing but like doom about how everyone wants to eliminate you. You kind of lose your vibe a little bit.
I don't know why that is. It's just
it's so strange.
That's odd. I don't understand why that would ever happen.
I don't know. And I guess just, in fairness, part of the reason I'm hesitant to show pictures because I have not transitioned and have not entirely been out in that sense, and it's like, yeah, I get real nervous with with especially
That's
the current rhetoric
understandable.
going on, where it's like, yeah, let's go ahead and just it's hard.
It was really I came out to my wife 2 years before I came out publicly, and those 2 years were hard. I mean, I'm like feeling for you so much, because like it's a little bit isolating in a way. You want to just be you as much as you can, and it's hard to have to reserve that little bit of yourself.
Like I get to like really pick and choose spots. Like my current fiance, she knew like before first date.
That's cool.
And it was one of those things like, I don't want to deal with this conversation later.
Mm-hmm.
I will just get that out of the way now.
Yeah, that's fair.
But and like conventions, I tend to skew more female presenting when I'm actually in person at an event, which is probably a weird choice. Now, driving to that event through some states, not great.
Yeah, that's a little scary.
I do have a list of gas stations I don't stop at anymore.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What states have you braved?
It's not the
That have been
whole
hard.
state, but it's like the last truck stop right before Indianapolis. Don't stop there.
Oh, jeez.
That's
I have to remember exactly the one in Michigan. That was real bad. Every so often you stop and like, yeah, Kentucky weirdly doesn't care.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, my girlfriend lives in Alabama, and so I've been spending like a month or so at a time there. And in August, I'm like moving there for like 6 months, and that's a scary, like,
Yeah.
I mean, there are people walking around with like Confederate flag T-shirts, and some of them have guns, and they sure love putting bumper stickers about how they like to kill people like me. Like, and you just kind of walk around and just hope that you're passing. The advantage of it's in the South, so everybody calls strangers sir or ma'am. So if I'm like at the grocery store, they'll call me ma'am all the time because they don't know me. So that's like a safety litmus test. That's like they're calling me ma'am. I'm good. I'm safe. I'm okay.
Right.
But yeah, does somebody have like a crying baby?
I have I do. I'm sorry. I keep shutting off. My oldest daughter's not happy about something, and I'm sure we're trying to fix it. But sometimes at night she gets upset.
It's always hard when you're in the middle of doing something like a broadcast or something too, because you're like, oh, you want to pause, but you can't.
Yeah, I know he's got it, so we're okay.
But yeah, as to the states thing, what was really a big, I won't say eye opener, interesting thing. So we recently went to Florida for Disney World. We went to Disney World, and when you're in the Disney bubble, it doesn't really affect you so much. But we were on the plane on the way home when the news about the bathroom ban, like it was signed. It was like, wow. If I had waited another week or two, I would not have been able to go to the bathroom at the airport. It was a shock, because I've been exposed to it for so long now that it's kind of like I'm numb to it. But it's still a little bit weird to have it like thrown in your face, and then you come home to California where it's like no one cares. Here in Central California, it's kind of a red-ish area sometimes because it's the Central Valley, but no one.
It's like out here in Canada, in British Columbia, no one cares. Like there's like gender-free bathrooms all over the place, and it's a great place to be trans.
Yeah, likewise, I'm in Chicago. No one cares.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Chicago's blue.
Yeah, Chicago's very, very blue.
Deeply.
Cool.
Chicago's making the entire state of Illinois blue.
Neat.
But
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, like when I've been out in Alabama with my girlfriend, we have to be careful. you know, like you can't be super gay out in public.
Yeah.
We were once like, well, we have been a few times, but I remember once I got like this, just the worst look from this lady. Like, so I'm looking, she's going to come and spend 2 weeks out here. And I'm looking forward to, like, we can be super gay out in the street here. And it's going to be awesome.
I have to hang our pride flag back up out front. I forgot to do that this month. I like to do it just to annoy the crap out of my neighbors. My neighbors aren't like anti-gay or anything like that, but they've been conservative, so it's a little bit like kind of like to little needle them a little bit.
Aren't you scared of like, because you see stuff on the news and stuff about vandalism or something scary happening?
I would be more so. So full disclosure, I live in it's a gated community. So like, while it's Sacramento area is largely liberal, but you know, we're in the country a little bit. I know my neighbors, so I don't really worry about them doing anything. If they're going to vandalize a flag, I paid $5 for it, so I'm not gonna, you know, I'll call security and be like, hey, you know, we got somebody doing something here. I kind of thought
$5.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. So I'm not, you know, I was worried about it. I will admit, before I came out, before I was really who I am all the time, I was worried about it. And the more I exist as who I am openly, the less I obsess over what other people do. I just kind of do what I'm going to do, and they either deal with it or don't. And generally speaking, when I'm not tiptoeing around people and I'm just being myself openly, they kind of, I don't know if they don't know how to deal with it, or they just kind of, everyone's kind of cool with it. No one's giving me any crap for it. So
cool.
You know?
I really appreciate that. I think everyone should live by that. The more I am myself, the more I am who I am, the more people seem to respond.
It's beautiful. I love your ears, by the way.
Thank you. They're one of my favorite pairs.
Yeah, one of the like a lot of trans people, I don't like seeing my dead name. And the problem with being a published author is, I mean, there are books out there that have my dead name on them. The reprints have been, you know, redone.
Right.
But yeah, there's still, like, there are places online where you can still buy copies of my book with some person's name on them that isn't mine. But and that's weird. But and there's also a lot of art out there with my name scribbled on the corner of it, or you know, that name. But I was scared about how my readers would react when I came out, and I was really happy that you know, the response was almost entirely positive. So yeah, I was really happy about that.
That's awesome.
What about Mae? Did you find that, like, when you came out, how did your readers react?
I was shocked by how almost universally accepting they were. I had one person who was like trying to save me from, you know, the hell or something, and they thought they were being so sincere. And it's funny to me. It was funny to me at the time because they were trying to stop me from making a decision, and I felt very much like Ozymandias from the Watchmen. It's like, do you really think that I would spill my plans if there was any chance of you stopping me? I did it 2 years ago.
You're too late.
You missed the boat, my friend. And speaking to your point about the dead name, it's interesting for me. There's a lot of things that I've had to come to a peace with, and that was one of them, mainly because I had an archive going back 20 years of that name being used in that character, and I'm not going to go scrub the comic. I'm not going to go and, you know, change all the it's a lot of work, and that's actually but I think I have a different relationship with my past persona, let's call it, than a lot of other people do, and it's neither good nor bad. It's just who I am. My relationship, and I'll say Greg. My relationship with Greg is one of a caretaker. He got me to where I am. And because of that, I don't have a problem seeing that name. Hell, up on my shelf right here, I've got a doll that my wife made for me when we got together. It's a custom doll. It was her first ever custom, and it's Greg. It's my character from the comic, and I display it proudly next to my version that she made recently, which was Malin, which is really sweet. There's a lot of things that I've come to peace with because I realize that they're not, for me, they're not anything that kind of sets me off. You know, I refer to my past character as Greg because back at the time it was Greg. That was the character, and that's not who it is now. But that's okay. You know?
That's really. I think that shows a lot of character. Like,
it's healthy.
It's hard. It's not something everyone can do, and I would not.
Yeah.
I'm not sitting here saying like, everyone needs to be like that because my God, it is not. It's not easy.
Oh no, I know. Like I got my stuff fairly split because I do have like mainstream stuff that I do, and I have stuff I do online.
Mm-hmm.
So like the convention stuff is under a different name. I've been kind of going through like, over the last few years of like future proofing it, where it's initials.
Oh yeah,
like
that's smart.
Like my name doesn't appear in the book, or like a first name. There's no male or female name. It's just.
Mm-hmm.
As initials, and I sign initials. I have pen name, and so that way, as I've gone further in that direction, is like, all right, it kind of already gradually going that way. And I know when there's people at shows, we figured out with the last banner that we made that it already attracts a very LGBT friendly audience. We like, I think the first show with the banner, me and fiance were just kind of like doing a show, and we're looking at people coming up, and they're like, oh yeah, they instantly like knew that this was like a safe book and a safe table, and we're looking back at the banner like, it's a woman in a dress shirt. Why? But like we didn't initially pick up on it, but like, we were just clearly just giving off that message.
Yeah.
The vibe.
We're kind of like, shoes. It was like very sensible shoes.
I think the LGBT crowd is pretty savvy to things that might not necessarily that might take other people aback. They're like they pick up pretty quick.
Princey Bond, I think that's how you say it, says, "Hey Dimples, Mae, Vixen, and Roseleaf. Hey, right back at you."
I think I know who that is. There's only one person who calls me Dimples.
I was just gonna say, they probably did that on purpose, so I thought I'd let you know.
Yeah, there's a certain, like, if I'm like out in public and someone has, and I know I'm profiling here, which isn't awesome, but like if someone has, like a belt buckle with an American flag on it and a cowboy hat, and like I'm gonna be less inclined to interact with them than if it's like some girl with tattoos and like the side of her head is shaved, and I'm just gonna be like, this person is safe. Like, where's this person? I don't feel super safe. Which, as I'm saying that out loud, I'm realizing that's kind of not awesome. But
you're protecting yourself.
Yeah, it's self protection. I think that's completely fair.
Well, I think to a degree, because I, especially when I'm at a convention, I see so many people. We're seeing like thousands of people walk past a day, and you see that, like, people, especially in the environment they feel safe, are advertising who they are. With their clothes and choices. There's a little bit of like, the costume, but it's like everyone's trying to express themselves in some way and trying to tell you. And we've kind of, and especially some communities, we have the like, all right, this is kind of the cool thing in our community. So, there's certain like patterns or outfits or pins or things you look for. You're like, oh, okay, that's someone that's in my group. Oh, that's someone that.
Oh, and that goes back decades. I mean,
yeah,
Yeah, there's
Forever.
all kinds of different things.
You know, the bandana in the pocket kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
It's there for a reason. Not a tattoo.
Yeah, it's absolutely a thing where we're talking to people, and I kind of know, like, okay, I know if I talk to this person about the book, this is something that probably interests them. Just like if like we have shared interests, I like the thing I'm making, they're probably also going to like the thing I'm making.
Yeah, I think that's cool.
Cool.
Fair.
I just want everybody to be safe. That's my heartache. Everyone just needs.
Yeah.
I just want everyone. I'm like doing the Earth Mother thing. I just want everybody to be safe and take care of.
It's strange to have to think about that now. It's one of those things that I never really occurred to me before. I consciously, I will say, I consciously put myself in. I won't say put myself in situations. I don't avoid conflict the way I may have before.
Mm-hmm.
But not to like I'm starting fights, but more like I'm not going to back down from like interacting with somebody, because I found that because of my weird psyche and my ability not to get super offended by certain things, I can be kind of like a lot of people's first interaction with a trans person. And because of that, I can try to normalize just obviously look, I look the way I look, but I sound the way I sound. And I'm very aware of that at all times, and I try not to be weird about it so that people just say, oh, that's a thing that's normal. Okay, cool. Try.
Just so you know, your voice reminds me of one of my directors that I used to work with, and she was one of my favorite people in the entire world. But you sound like her.
That's
every
sweet.
now and then I'm like,
that's sweet.
Sounds like
Hannah. I'm still like, hey, how's it going?
No, you guys should be in the morning. The voice is very, very low. And
oh yeah,
it just sits in the basement here to a degree of people is like, can you read a book for me? Just like
we were just talking about that.
It comes in handy when I'm singing songs for my son before bed, because I can get that deep resonance that really puts him to sleep. Yeah, you've got a great narrator voice.
We call it the commander voice.
Oh, I like that.
I like that.
I remember because I lost on my volume with my voice, and like with my dog, who I had for 17 years. There was, if she was getting into something she shouldn't, or if she was going somewhere she shouldn't, like walking toward the road or sniffing into the garbage, I can use what I called the daddy voice. And it was this low, booming, loud voice. And she'd be like, oh my God. And or if she's like walking away, I would use the voice and she would come back. But I've years, like it's been years, I've lost that voice. So, like now, like she, she's passed on recently, but like before then, like she would walk away and I'd be like, Ember, come here. And she would just be like, screw you. And she just would keep walking. You
gotta be kidding me, Mom.
Yeah. Yeah, and I used to be like, when I DM Dungeons and Dragons, and I used to do all these different voices and stuff, and I used to be intimidating. But now, like, the orc warrior, 7 feet tall, covered in scarred muscle, and like rusty piecemeal armor, walks up to you and says, hi, you shouldn't be here. You have to leave or I'm gonna kill you. Like you lose some abilities. But like I would say, like, I think it was like a year and a half ago, I tried to use the old voice, and it came out and it sounded like laryngitis, because it's just parts of my throat I haven't used for years, and it sounded like someone who had lost their voice, but I could hear a hint of him in there, and I started crying. Like I was just like, I don't want to do that again.
No, that's fair.
Yeah, I can't touch it, but yeah.
I've been doing impressions for so long that I'm kind of hoping that it helps me, I'm doing voice training now. Finally, 3 years in. My impressions and my vocal range. I'm hoping it helps me out.
I know for my D&D games, I think everyone I play with at this point knows because every character I've made is female. And every to an aggressive point where I think the one time it was like we have pre-gen characters. You play this guy, and I think after a while nope, can't do it. I need some escape from I at least need a female character. But yeah.
Eliza Librarian asks, is there a lot of conflict in your career choice?
Conflict in what way?
I would imagine people treating you
differently.
Yeah.
I've gotten like Mae, I've gotten the concerned transphobes that would email me and be like, listen, I just wanted to let you know before you do any surgery. This was back before I did surgeries. And they'd be like, I just want to let you know, don't do that because it's horrible and it's not going to make you happier and everything, which is just silly. Adorable. Beforehand, I was miserable. I was depressed and grumpy and everything was sad. And now I wake up and the first thing in the morning I have zoomies and I have to dance and I have to run around in the circle and I'm just so happy and I'm just I don't know what to do with happy. So I think it's funny that people they email me and they're just you're happy now, but it's not gonna last. You're gonna realize you've made a terrible mistake. When is that day gonna come? Because I haven't been this happy since I was 6 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
I've always thought that's a side effect of people not being able to think outside themselves, not able to empathize with other people because they are so caught up with how they feel about it that they imagine everyone else feels the same way as they do. So all they can think of is how would I feel if I had to go through that, and that'd be miserable. Yeah. If you're a cis guy, that's horrifying. Why would you want to do that to yourself? It's you don't quite get it.
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah.
I'll go the other way, I guess. All right, career choice. Is it more about the work, that we make comics or conflict?
Yeah, the conflict is just being a cartoonist.
Yeah, I know I got a lot of I do the day job and I do the comics on the side, and definitely earlier jobs there was a lot of if I let something show, definitely one of those jobs I would have got fired.
Yeah,
especially not being a protected class. That issue. I'm currently in a position where that's not possible. That's not an option. So that kind of opens up that. And I guess just to cover bases, between comics and the day job, they surprisingly gel really well. I get to be a graphic designer during the day job, so it's already art to make home, make some stuff. The only thing I would get yelled at is I'm very adamant during work that I am not a writer, and everyone tells me from the comic side that's the part I'm the best at. I just refuse to write anything at work.
Well, you're writing it for someone else in that particular.
Yeah, it's a certain professional voice, and I do more dialogue. So
yeah, I get that.
Yeah, cool.
Jesse says, I hope it's okay to ask all of you. You're so sweet, Jesse. Do you have an advice on how to become a writer, how to write stories?
This is okay. I've been asked. Okay, I get a lot of questions from people from cisgender people that start with, I hope this is okay to ask. Don't be offended. But that's never been followed up with, how do I become a writer? Like,
I love that.
This is gonna be something bad. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can answer that. Yeah, sure.
She doesn't want to offend anyone ever. She's a lovely.
It's usually followed up with things like what's between your legs, but like, yeah, like I say, just like write, just be passionate about what you're writing, love what you're writing. Because if you're just sort of slogging through it and you're not super into the stuff you're writing, the characters you're creating, then nobody else will be either. The way I view it is your level of excitement about your writing should be the top, because I don't think anybody else's excitement can pass where yours is. Right. It'll stop. You're creating the ceiling. So if you're kind of just like going through it, then that's as excited as someone else can get. But if you're like obsessed with your characters, like it's really excited about, oh, I want to tell this tale of what's going to happen next, I'm so excited, that's such a good moment, then they're going to get excited about that too. And just like, yeah, like ask yourself, what emotions do your scenes, like how do they make you feel? Do you want to make people sad? Do you want them to cry? Do you want them to laugh? Do you want them just to, just casually be like friends with your characters and just make yourself feel that? Imagine if like some author, if I were reading the best story in the world, what would happen? And then just plagiarize that fictional story you're writing in your mind, because it's a story you're writing in your mind.
I love that. Your advice was really good. That was one of the first things back when I was a teenager when I started my comic. I said to myself, I am only doing this for me, and I don't care what people say. I do it for me, and if I don't enjoy it, I won't do it. And that has been the driving force of creativity in general. Is not how are people going to react to this, but how can I make myself enjoy this? How can I make myself laugh? I would say another bit of advice is don't be afraid to suck, because it's inevitable. You're going to suck. I look back at my first stuff and I'm like, oh, that sucks. But you know what? I did it, and it's as the great philosopher Jake the dog says, sucking at something is the first step to being sort of good at something. That's great advice. I've taken that one to heart. That one's fantastic.
Nice. I'll go with the advice that seems very counterintuitive to probably all of us. Is start small.
Oh yeah.
I know so many people that will like come and like pitch me a story, like, and then this happens, and then this, and then like 10 chapters later, it really goes into gear, and the story really starts. I'm like, start there. Start where the thing you're excited is.
Yep.
Or they have these giant epics, and I've been working on a comic for 2 years, doing multiple pages a week, and it takes a very long time, and sometimes you just need to do here's a 3-page story. Just to prove you can do it, and you write something that's complete, and you have a complete thing to share with somebody, and it's just like a proof of concept. You just make it longer and longer and longer, because I think just being able to finish gives you like a nice feeling, and you go, oh, that's done. All right, cool. I can make a new thing, or I can make like another part of that thing, and then you just keep going and making different things.
And when people who don't know you hate you, you've made it.
Oh wow, I'm doing great.
That's true. That means I'm doing really good. But I'm old.
Reading reviews of my work has been weird.
There's
it's a
sorry, go ahead, Rose.
No, it's just because I'll like get a link sent to me every so often, and it's like, oh, this person like bought a book or they read the webcomic, and it's like, oh, there's like a review. Like someone took time to write like a multi-page review over the thing that I did and try to like parse that. And it's like, oh, they really hated that. Oh, they really, okay. And then, trying to figure out what to do with that information.
That way lies madness. That's a hard one.
Yeah.
My biggest hiatus ever was about 3.5 years, and it happened because I discovered that if you searched for my comic name, the fourth link down was the Bad Webcomics Wiki. And
Yes.
And I made the mistake of not engaging, but like reading it. And it sent me into a depression that I could not pull myself out of for the longest time. It's horrible.
It's devastating. Like, I'm on there too. There's like a shockingly active forum based around how horrible I am and how terrible my comic is. And I started doing something cathartic. I went in as someone else and I would join them in bashing my comic. Like, I would just be like, check out what she did with this. Like, who does she think she is? Like, oh, we're supposed to be sad because this character died. And they would join in. Like, and that made me feel good because I felt like I had control of this group of haters.
The problem with me was that I saw it and I gave it credence. And that was that I should not have done. I should have known better, and I should have said, these are not people criticizing me because of something I've done. These are people who are criticizing me because of who they are.
Yeah.
And 90% of people out there are, when they say something bad about you, it says more about them than it does about you. And once I internalized that, I know it's on the Bad Webcomics Wiki, and I'd be the first person to say, you know, my comic, it kind of sucks, but you know, I like it.
There's your comic is amazing, by the way.
Okay.
But
I appreciate that, but you know,
one of my favorite things.
I'll send you your payment later.
I was gonna say, he's in the chat. Sturk, I think like we were talking before coming on, and like sent me one of your comics. And I was like, I absolutely really relate with this one, and it's like, yeah, I remember reading. I kind of lost track, but I remember reading. I'm like, oh yeah, I love this comic. It's great.
Thank you.
Rediscovery, yay!
Yeah, one of my favorite things, like on webcomics, the Bad Webcomic Wiki, where I used to hang out in the forums sometimes, and be one of the haters. Every now and then, someone would be like, you know, I read this comic. It's not that bad. It's pretty good. And every time someone said something that was like even remotely nice about the comic, everyone would jump on top of that person and be like, okay, Ellie, we know it's you pretending to be someone else. And I would laugh so hard because I'm over here and you can't see me.
I'm being naughty.
I think people just really love
it.
like the hate on something sometimes. It's just like to be able to pounce on it and then kind of be like in their own bubble it's just, I don't know, it just gives them like their sense of control. And like it doesn't feel very productive. I always, I like watching like videos online of like people talking about other art that exists, and I keep having to wind down of like negative, and it's like basically like trying to get every like negative video out of like my feed. It'll keep sending stuff over like oh, why Marvel's the worst, oh why, like I don't want I want I want to learn, I want to know more about how people think they make it, and but I don't want, like, if it's just like bashing, like that doesn't do anything.
Human nature, we're like programmed to engage in that kind of stuff, and it's something that you have to really like exercise restraint. It's you can't just naturally avoid it. We're programmed to like, yeah, it sucks.
I lived with 11 drag queens for 3 years. Let me tell you, 11 drag queens and 3 lesbians. It was the most fun I've ever had in my entire life. I ran a house. I basically ran this huge Victorian house that they all lived in. And the guy who owned the house was in like Norway or something like that. I can't remember. But I would take care of payments and handy stuff around the house and make sure all the queens get to the club on time, that kind of stuff.
That's a TV show. You should pitch that.
I know. Somebody told me that before. You should write that. I'm like, you should hear the story about the pink poodle. Anyway, I have lots of stories for that. But the one thing I did learn a lot from the drag queens was how to deal with trolls and hecklers. And there's lots of different ways to do it. But my favorite was, thanks for participating. And that's all they would say. And the people would be like, so I use that in all my social media. When I hardly get any trolls anymore because I'll well, thank you for participating and pushing my algorithm.
I used to revel in hate mail when I got hate emails. I thought they were the greatest thing ever. There was one guy, oh my God, there was one guy. I did a comic slightly making fun of how much Canadians like the maple leaf in things. Like poking fun at it. And it sent him into such an apoplectic rage that every couple years he would email me out of nowhere just like to needle me over this thing.
Wait, this guy was Canadian?
Uh-huh.
We love being made fun of. We're just happy to be a part of the thing.
That's the cognitive dissonance. You know, because as an American, I feel like it's my job. It's my job to jokingly make fun of Canada because there's no truth to it. But when you say stuff like Canada's America's hat, or you know, you like, oh, you really love putting the maple leaf and stuff, no truth to it. But man, this guy took it amiss.
We love, like, every time like a TV show or something like makes fun of us, you know, like like, hey, let's make fun of Canadians. I feel like they said my name on TV. No, that's true. We do say sorry a lot. Cool.
But what's funny is how much of the Canadian stuff is like How I Met Your Mother did Robin Sparkles, and they talked about how Canada didn't get the 80s until the 90s. I'm like, yeah, kind of.
Never heard that.
Made me think with the hate mail. I do have like one person that like constantly I get a lot of hate messages from, but they're a patron.
Oh God!
Oh, that's the worst.
So they pay me.
They pay you. Oh
like,
my God!
Every month, and then like on occasion, they're like, I hate how this is going, and I'm like, cool. I don't know why you're still here.
I lean into it. I'd say that's some really great feedback. Make sure your credit card information is updated. I don't want you to miss a payment.
I'm just like continually shocked every so often. Look like, oh, still here. All right.
It's like they're paying the fine to criticize you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't that awesome?
I might monetize that. That's a great idea. Like a paid subscription where you get to criticize me.
You know, there are people who like their hands slapped. So
ooh, I like that.
I can totally see it. If you can market it, you can do it. Let's see. We're missing a whole bunch of comments. Let's see where we are. Why do some people always say it's a phase? One of my oldest buds came out to me almost 30 years ago, and now she is happily living in Arizona. Live your life on your own terms, I say. This is true. It's a phase. People said that to me all my life about everything.
They say it's a phase because it would be for them, I guess.
It would be for them. Something they can't wrap their head around, probably.
Yeah, like it's just, I mean, like it's just for like the I had a guy, a cisgender guy, being like this is before my bottom surgery, and he's just like I can't believe you're gonna get that surgery done. I could never live with that. And I'm like, exactly, like just reverse it. Like just imagine you woke up with a vagina one day. How would you feel? You'd feel terrible, right? You'd feel like this doesn't match you, and oh my gosh, I need my penis back. I hope this is all okay to say.
Yeah. Where you
okay, good. And you'd do everything you could in your power to get that back because you'd just feel so wrong without that beloved penis of yours. And that's how I feel, but reversed. Like, and then I was really happy. He was like, "Oh my God, yeah, okay, I get that."
Well, it's good that went over well, because that could have gone backwards. I've seen it.
One of the better arguments out there. It's not arguments. It's one of the better ways of getting people to understand that not everybody thinks the way they do. We are. Yeah. I think we are, as humans, we have a really hard time understanding that what's in here isn't what everyone else has.
Right.
We only have our one way of experiencing the world, and that works against us too. Like trans people, you'll hear from us so many times, hasn't everyone just wished they were the opposite gender? Like we think that's the normal thing because we can't conceive that y'all don't feel that way.
Right.
I thought it's a natural thing. Like obviously everyone thinks this, right? Yeah.
I thought that. for like so much of my life, I thought all men wish they were women. I just totally thought it's just one of those secrets we all have and we wish we had. And then I started to realize that that's not the case. And I remember the exact moment my egg cracked, because I would think to myself, yes, I spend every waking moment of my life thinking this would be so much better if I were doing it as a girl, constantly thinking that, constantly dreaming of, I hate this, and I wish I was being a girl right now. But it's not like I'm one of those transgender people. I mean, it's not that. But I mean, when my egg cracked, I was in a chat room. It wasn't even a transgender chat room. It was just some chat room. And there was a trans girl. And I barely knew her. And I said, can I ask you a question? She said, sure. And I don't remember her answer, but I asked her, I said, when did you first know you were trans? And as soon as I asked that, it was like that moment in the Fight Club where they, Ed Norton realizes that there's a spoiler for Fight Club. Ed Norton realizes that Brad Pitt is his imaginary character, and the movie suddenly replays all these scenes that have taken place. But now you see that Ed Norton was alone the whole time. You're like, how did I not see that? As soon as I asked this trans girl, how did you first know you were trans? It did that. My life played through every moment. And I was Ed Norton alone. And I'm like, oh, how did I not see this? Oh my gosh. And I realized, holy crap. And that was the moment. That was the moment that everything changed for me.
Yeah.
I just remember, I think, I get a lot of vibe of, people just don't, change. And at least, some people, I know, I guess, in my circles, change is the worst thing possible. And so even though for us, we're not semi-trans, like you're saying, trans the whole time. But to them it's change.
Yeah.
And is news to them, and they kind of well, I don't want things to be different. So it has to be just it has to be a temporary thing. It's not a real thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's why that comes up. I mean, I'll I was gonna say I'd be the old person, but I think we're kind of similar. But growing up in the 80s, anytime someone trans showed up on TV, they were a sex worker or a criminal or the worst thing you could possibly be. And so growing up in that time, where that just continues to reinforce the idea of if I tell someone, if I say anything or if I do anything, that's what I am. And and it's just really this branding this thing. And so trying to glom onto the only positive media you can get at that time.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost become a refrain at this point that's almost pat, but the representation matters. That's exactly the point. As a child of the 80s, I was born in 81. The only examples of trans people, even if you had a good example of trans person, which we didn't really, but let's be honest,
I could give it one.
I can't. Honestly, off the top of my head,
I don't even think it's positive.
I could be one. They were universally hetero, which I, for the longest time, didn't understand what I was going through because I was attracted to women, and it wasn't until very late in my life that I'm like, that's because you're a lesbian, dumbass. Because we didn't have examples of that. But yeah, the negative, sex worker, Ace Ventura is a really great one to point out. Yeah. Especially bad because as a kid, I loved Ace Ventura because he was funny.
Yeah.
But
he was awesome.
He was hilarious. But that whole movie, that aspect of it, that stuff gets into your brain and it makes you unable to conceive of another reality. So the fact that we have so much representation now of people who are like us, who are just normal, who are just out there being normal, that's so huge. And I'm so I won't say jealous of kids today, but I'm thankful for them that they don't have to have the same lack of that we had to go through.
Well, and I think that's also influenced what I've been writing, because I think earlier on, when I would have like characters that would be, as close as trans as they were at that time, it would be a very forced, like they didn't intentionally try to be trans. Like something happened to them, and so they got to be a girl.
It was out of their control.
It's like absolutely not their fault. It just happened. They can't help. It's just a thing. And getting able to write that, or oh no, a witch did it, like whatever happened.
I used to have that exact fantasy.
But now, as I've been writing stuff, and some of it is like that fantasy fulfillment of like, hey, look, you can just instantly, you don't have to go through this stuff and just live vicariously through the story. But also, like, I've been introducing more trans characters, like characters who are actively trans and actively want to do these things and want to transition. And and I think we're talking about that audience aspect of like, how does the audience feel? And when you're in that thing where you had a bunch of people who might be like fetishizing it or looking at it in a very different way, and then you're gained into this area where, oh, these are now trans characters and they're openly trans, they're saying they're trans. The audience has also changed. So like, sure, you get some people like, oh, what is this crap? But you get people like, oh, thank God. Oh, thank God that this character is trans and they get to go on the story and they associate better with them.
And that was something that occurred to me too, is that it's important to portray and not make being trans the only thing. It's just like, your hair is brown. It's the least, I say to a lot of people, it's like the least important or the least interesting thing about me. And that's true. But it's also kind of nice to just have the mundane, everyday relating of the trans experience to people. It's kind of boring. It's funny, but it's kind of boring.
Did you have the first year or two of your transition where you just, that's all you talked about? Because I had that.
Nuts.
Because your entire universe is changing, and it's like spending like your entire life wishing, oh, I wish I could fly, and all of a sudden you can. Like, so it's all you talk about for a while, like, and then you calm down and you just sort of put it on the back shelf for a while.
It's the point where it doesn't come up. And also that first year, you're not just dealing with the acceptance of who you are, but you're also I had to deal with the grieving of the lost childhood, which was something that I think a lot of people don't understand you have to deal with, because there's a point at which you're happy about who you are, but you're like, I lost all this time, and how do you deal with that? And my therapist pointed out to me that that's grief, and that's a mental coping mechanism that you use to process and move forward from that kind of thing. I'm like, oh shit, that's what that is. So once I understood that, it's like, oh cool, I can. But there's a lot of that readjustment, and that necessitates like constantly talking about it. And at some point my wife said, we are going to stop talking about this eventually, right?
Yeah, I was there. But like, the thing is, like, I didn't start feeling any kind of gender dysphoria or anything until, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years old, something like that. Because before that, gender's not a thing.
Right.
You're just a child. But then as you get older, you start to become like, you're hanging out with the boys or the girls, and your society is edging you in that direction. And the last time I was like super duper happy was when I was 5 or 6 or 7. And then it stopped. And then like, I was happy sometimes, but never like super happy like I was when I was a kid. But then after I transitioned, I was happy again, like at that same level of happiness. And it took me a while to realize, like, because all of a sudden when I was super happy, and I'm like clapping my hands and I'm jumping up and down, and I'm like, and like, my friends would be like, you act like a little kid. like when you're super happy. And it took me months to realize, hang on a second, I think it's because I never learned to express this level of happiness after that age of 5 or 6 or 7. Like, because the last time I was this happy, the last time I expressed these emotions, I was a child. And so the only way I know how to express these emotions is to clap my hands and jump up and down and run around in a circle. Like, so I imagine maybe like 5 years from now, I'll express happiness like a teenager. And then 5 years after that, I'll express it like an
your face.
Like, I remember, like, high school, and this is more of like, all right, I don't fit in with the quote unquote guys that I'm supposed to hang out with, and I feel jealous of the girls. And it's like, what do I do with these feelings, and how does this work? And
I never thought about it. That was the thing. As a kid, I never thought about it.
Like, I was in the same area, like literally like 5, 6, 7 is when I started to feel like like I'm supposed to be a girl. Just what was the thing. And and like things have definitely kind of like shaped, because like most of my friends are women. Wedding later, we have the groom's ladies are all set. Took them to get tuxes. They were so thrilled about pockets.
Oh, that's great.
They're like, oh my god, pockets.
My favorite wedding, I was a best man. I was so excited.
Oh,
I couldn't see straight. I was so excited.
that's awesome. Yeah, I remember the first time I used a women's bathroom. We were at a movie theater. My partner at the time and we watched a movie, and after the movie was done, we waited for everyone in the theater to go into the bathroom, use the bathroom, and clear out. And then we're at that stage where we're like the only people in the theater. There's someone vacuuming the floor over there, and she went into the ladies' room first, and she made sure it was empty, and she came out. She's like, "It's empty. Come in and pee." And I was like, I stood outside. I was so scared. And I was really lucky I had her, because she took my hand and like literally dragged me in. And I went into the bathroom and I sat down, and I went to the bathroom in the stall, and I ugly cried. Like I sobbed. I couldn't control it. And I was so happy. And it's really a testament to how much, if you're not allowed to be yourself at your level, how much sadness you learn to hold in, to the point where like just going pee, I cried like I had just won $1 squillion, and it shouldn't be that way. Like we shouldn't force people to pretend to be someone else for other people's comfort for that long, to the point where it just breaks them, so that when they can stop, it's such a relief that they're that happy over such mundane things.
Yeah. In the comments, real quick, Eliza, you say thank you in the detail. Welcome to. If you know enough trans people, we don't have filters anymore.
She's known me for 5 years. I have no filters and no modesty, so she's good.
No other group of people will be so ready to talk about getting their testicles removed or other just really uncomfortable subjects. We'll talk at great length and detail.
Yeah.
And then she said, "You're not trans, but you're helping me by bringing me into your world. Thank you."
Aww, that makes me happy. Yeah, I think it's like I said it before. You spend the first part of your life pretending to be something you're not for the comfort of others, and when you transition, I think you're just like, well, at least for me, I'm like, I'm like having no filter, like you said. I'm done pretending. Like I'll just talk about it's so funny. Like I would want to pass. I would want to not be clocked as trans in public. But then when I see, oh my God, I'm not getting clocked, I'm passing, I want to tell them, oh, thank God, no one knows I'm trans. Everybody, guess what? I'm trans.
It's fun because you get to talk about stuff that most people find really weird and like unsettling. And you're like, ooh, no, it's normal. It's great.
Yeah.
I have a question for Rose and Ellie, just to see if you had a similar experience. When you had your egg crack moment, I describe it to people as like, it was first off, it was like a rush of emotions. My ears started like banging, like pulsing, like my, like I had not a panic attack. But the next day, I felt like Dorothy walking out of the house at the beginning of Wizard of Oz, and everything was in color for the first time in my life. And it's weird to say that because obviously I'm not colorblind and everything's been in color, but I felt like I was seeing color for the first time. Is that just me, or is that?
No, that's a really good way of explaining it. Rose, what about you?
It's weird because, like, yes, I remember like stuff when I was like five or six, where absolutely trying to explore that. And when I try to think of like, okay, like the egg crack moment, I actually have a really hard time trying to pinpoint it.
That's fair, yeah.
Because there's stuff of like, all right, well, I had this weird job where I had to present as women if I was going to make any money, and like, what was that it? But I know there was stuff before that point. I know there was a whole thing after where I hung out with a friend who I RP'd with. We did like a Buffy like RP online, and you would play different characters, and she just went, so we were playing Xander. Yeah, Xander gets turned into a girl a lot.
Yeah, I used to play Vampire Masquerade, and I played a character named Lyric who was a guy who was polymorphed into the body of a girl. And these are the moments you look back on and you're like, how did I not know?
I had a lot of those too. D&D, my character got gender swapped at one point, and then I, not knowingly, but I avoided all attempts to change the enchantment back. Not because my at the time I was like, oh, it'll be more interesting to roleplay this way.
I was in a game, and I think we were like the second edition or something, and like a bunch of people were there, and someone got that girdle that makes you a woman. I was jealous I didn't get that thing, and like I really wanted that. Like I want that for my character.
We were for the first time playing with miniatures. I got a miniature of like my character that was like gender swap. I'm like, oh, I'll paint this one. This would be great.
Yeah, I did the same thing. Oh my god, I had a boy version of my character and I had a girl version of my character. But like, I remember like, there was this curse turned my character into a girl, and I'm like, oh no, this is so embarrassing. I hate this, and everybody's pointing and laughing at me. You gotta play a girl. I'm like, oh no. And then later on, like this cleric was like, I can cast a spell and fix that. And I remember like panicked, barking out, you get the hell away from me with that spell. Like, and like, yeah, it's just the fear of like, don't you take this away from me. This is the happiest moment of my life.
I think the only doubt I've had about it as like older in the last couple of years is the realization of all those were presented as curses. Those were from the creators of D&D, the worst thing that could happen to your character.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was the thing I wanted the most. Of like, can we get that thing? Can like my character have that thing? But it's like it's so disheartening to go back and go, oh, I'm not supposed to want that. Like, but you think being a woman is the worst punishment that you could have.
But the thing is, it is a curse because it's a curse to be forced to be a gender that you're not. And the thing is, you are already living that curse. So it is absolutely a curse. You just were already in it. So when some, like in these games, we're like, haha, I'm going to curse you and turn you into a girl. No, your brain is like, whether you realize it consciously or not, your brain is like, oh, that would free me from the curse that I'm currently living in real life. Like, yeah. I'm going to sneak to the bathroom for 1 minute.
Okay.
Where are you?
Don't tell
just so you
anyone.
know, most of our Flipsidians are avid D&D role-playing people, especially hubby and I. We're both testers. We're beta testing. Like I was beta testing for White Wolf when they first started. I'm old. So
Bro,
I'm 50.
come on now. I turn 42 next week.
43.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
And he has written and done a lot of things for GURPS, and we've been playing D&D our whole life. And he wanted to tell you Eliza loves D&D too. But Craig says, I did have one character who started female and got changed into a boy and got pissed until she got changed back in the same session. I've seen him do stuff like that. It's like, no. that's
funny.
That's not happening.
My friend, not really being aware, was going to do that to my character. And like, don't you know that is awful? Like, we can do a lot of stuff by character. Do not make her a guy. No.
Yeah.
Roseleaf, is it your birthday today?
No.
Myrtle just said happy birthday, Roseleaf.
Thank you, Myrtle, but alas.
I don't think Roseleaf is in on the joke. We have some people who say happy birthday and happy anniversary to each other just because they don't know what else to say. And they think it's hilarious. So you just brought into an inside joke, just so you know.
I do find entertaining when I'm on some of my comics are up on TG Comics.
Welcome to Planet Flipside.
That the community on the forums real into D&D, and it's like I keep threatening to like have a trans D&D campaign online.
I participated in one.
Let me know. I want to play.
A lot of fun.
I used to be in one, and I think we kind of fell apart, and it stopped being about D&D. Like, I really want to play D&D though.
We keep saying we did have a campaign that we ran on Sundays at 2 that we would broadcast. When after the campaign finished, we couldn't find another person who wanted to be the dungeon master because Hubby and I were like, no, I always do that. I don't want to do that. I want to play. But we still have that time chiseled out in case anybody ever wants to start again.
It's been a hot minute since I've played, but I always play. My characters are always roughly the same. I like to play a character with okay intelligence, but incredibly low willpower and wisdom, so that I am the instigator of shenanigans because I can't control myself.
I keep ruining my friend's plans.
Mm-hmm. That's
because he keeps forgetting I have stuff, or like is the thing like you're like, okay, you're on top of a tower and you have to, and I think he didn't mention there was like a door right away, and I just went, we have featherfall tokens, let's jump. And the whole tower was like a whole dungeon you're supposed to go down, and we just skipped the whole thing by
That's
jumping.
hilarious.
Like, I did that 3 times, where he would have a whole thing laid out, and I would skip it, and I wouldn't know I skipped it until it was like too late.
Yeah,
where it was like, oh, I was impersonating this woman, and she's the head of this gang, and oh, her girlfriend also is the co-head, and I convinced her that I was her girlfriend and let me in to get the thing and skip the entire fight thing. Like I just keep cutting through stuff. Sorry,
hazard DMs have to deal with, you know.
I've had that happen to me so many times where I'm thinking, you guys you're going to do it backwards. I don't even care anymore.
No plan provides contact with the enemy.
I love when my players totally destroy the plans I have.
I've never DM'd. One of these days I'd like to, but my character archetype was created almost as a combat to metagaming, because I had so many other players who were like trying to discuss what they were going to do, and while they're discussing, I always wait until they were in the middle of a discussion. I would just say, I kicked the door open.
Mm-hmm.
No discussion. I'm just going to fuck things up for us right now.
That would be fun.
All my characters never check locks or traps.
Mm-hmm.
They just were like, go, moving forward. We're not checking anything. Don't care.
There's nothing more fun than being put into peril.
I will say, it's weird. Like, I do this as a DM. I do it as a writer. I don't know what's going to happen.
You know, that's a great point. I'll let you.
I said, especially as a writer, because I have stuff I write on my own. no, do whatever I want. But we've been doing something with the current comic where the audience is voting on what happens.
Ooh, I like that.
I don't know what they're going to pick. And so it's a thing we do a vote. Like, I may have an idea of like, oh, I want to go in this direction, I want to go in this direction. And I kind of have to wait. So I can't do the pages early.
Oh, wow.
I have to wait for the poll. And then I get to find out, okay, I guess I'm going left. That's where we're going now.
Back in 2008 or so, 2009, I did a week long or so story where I had every comic was based on, I would say, okay, send in your scripts. Everyone email me a script and I'll pick a script, and that's where the comic's going to go for today. So it was like every day was continuing from the previous comic, but users would send their scripts in. So I had a simple comic wind up with the Harlem Globetrotters at one point, and they had to make them connect with the previous comic, and it was like it was like improv for comics. It's great.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I did it a little bit with the one before it too, and this one's just more of it, and it is absolutely like, all right, I'm figuring out where this is going right before. Like, I'm often writing it while I'm drawing it. Like my first draft is I have the panels and I'm literally writing what happens in each panel.
What's your usual process? How do you usually go about? Are you a full story?
I'm a full story. If I'll do the outline, I'll do the full story, I'll do the full script, and then if I'm lucky, I hand that to somebody else. If I'm not lucky, then I have to sit down and actually draw all of that. I usually write out. I try to keep those fairly short. I like a good 24-page. Doing it unless it's Stirk work, in which case it's a 500-page thing that I'm handing off to not draw.
Jesus. What about you, Ellie?
I'm like the opposite of all of that. Like, I wrote my story in 2005, and it's like I finished it, and I've been drawing through it since then. So everything is redone. Like, there's no improv. There's little things like there was a handful of months ago, the goblins met up with this goblin angel, like an angel of the goblin god, and the goblin angel was transgender. Now, of course, that wasn't the case when I wrote it in 2005. Sure. But I mean, all the same beats were there. It was the same story. Aside from little things like that, it's all pre-written. I can't, like, I really admire people who are we under arrest?
Yeah, no.
No. My favorite line from that thing with the goblin god. Like, oh no, did I out you to your backpack?
Oh yeah, he's got a talking character trapped. This is one of those. My comics filled with these things that the context makes no sense unless you read the comic. A goblin who has the soul of a gargoyle trapped in the skull, part of a skull of a cursed dwarf that he carries on his back on an axe that is the gateway to hell. So, but the skull talks. So the goblin angel is like reading the character sheet of the goblin and said like, oh, you're gay, and the soul on the skull shard of the dwarf on his back was like, you're gay, and that's when the goblin angel was like, oh my god, did I just out you to your backpack? I'm so sorry.
That's hilarious.
And she summons her magic sword, and it's got, I went way over the top, it's got trans colors on it, and the jewels in the hilt are like hormone pills. There's like testosterone blocker and estradiol and like progesterone. It's all in there. Yeah.
I love
One of the things I love to do when writing is, especially this mostly when I get to work with someone else. I'll write something, and I do it with almost everyone I've worked with. I send them script and they do the artwork, I get the artwork back, and then I change everything when I letter it. Like it's still the same story, but like all the dialogue is different. Cause I'll look at what they drew and I'm like, oh, I think that expression says these words. And I just start like rewriting it as I letter it to kind of help it fit a little more. Or my more lazy thing, which is just called, I've worked with really awesome artists, is removing words. I'm like, oh, this says everything. I don't need dialogue, and I'll just take it out.
I think that's the stronger option. It's always better to edit down.
Yeah,
I think it's worse if I've taken out pages, and then someone gets upset at me because I took out a page.
Yeah, so like I was saying, I have a lot of respect for writers who can make it up as they go, because like I depend on like planting those seeds. Like there's stuff like, you know, years and years ago the goblins are talking and one's like, oh, I suppose they're arguing, oh, I suppose if someone was torturing me you would come back and rescue me, and they're like, no, we wouldn't. And then of course years later we get to the point in the story where the goblin's being tortured and they all turn around and go back to rescue. So there's like a squillion little callback moments, and I depend on those. Those are my crutches.
I live for those, and I do it seat in my pants every day. I generally don't have anything scripted out more than a day in advance, almost ever. But I will drop seeds that I will not I will not reap them for 5, 6, 7 years. Just I'll drop a little nugget and then I'll pick it up later, and everyone's like, "Holy crap, that's a reference!" like I did. You know, there was one point in the first year or two of the comic, my characters time traveled, and you know they ask their alternate selves, like, you know, what they need to worry about. It says on June whatever 2005, you're going to bump your knee on a drawer. And it really hurt, and that's like the whole. That's like the whole, like, you know, things that they're warning about the future. And on that day in the comic, I was in the middle of another storyline, but in the background you hear, "Ah, damn it! I hit my knee." And it's completely without context if you don't know what that's all about. I live for that kind of stupid crap.
I'm happy that there's like happy and frustrated, because like there's stuff that like they voted for, and it was like, I don't know how to represent this aspect of the character they voted for, because it's now like an aspect of them, and it's like, I don't know how to show it, and I figured out how to show it, but it's going to take me 2 years.
Oh my god!
To do something with that, because like I have to get past all these other things, and then I can do the thing that they voted for. And I figured out the timeline where I'm like, yeah, it's going to take me at least 1 year to 2 years for that to pay off and actually be like a plot relevant thing. Like, I know what it is, it's not going anywhere, and like I know I'll get to it. It's just going to take like forever to do it.
That's, I mean, yeah, I understand. That's hard. That's hard to do. I at one point dropped. I drew up a storyline where I made a holodeck, like my character made a holodeck, and I had to finagle a certain number of characters to get into it, because I knew that someday I might want to do a storyline where they never left the holodeck. And I had to make sure that they all entered the holodeck so that could happen. And it wound up being the salvation to my long hiatus, because all of a sudden I said, oh, the comic crashed because the holodeck went down. And that's how I came back from the hiatus.
Forgot about that.
I love sowing the seeds of discord that way.
Yeah.
Okay, as long as you saw it. If I missed anybody's questions, please write them again. It goes by fast sometimes, especially since there's like 15 of you in there right now. You're all talking on top of each other. It's okay, I like it. Give it to us. Suck it to me. I don't know. We've already gone over time, but I don't care. It doesn't bother me any. My question: what's your sign? Oh, Eliza wants to know what everybody's sign is. I'm a Sagittarius.
I would say guess based on what you know about me, but I'm a Cancer. It's the boring one.
No.
I am the human potato.
Are you moody? Cancers are supposed to be moody.
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah.
Taurus.
Taurus.
Oh, okay.
Aries. The rain.
I don't know much about the signs except that my wife is a Capricorn, and I know that everyone considers them to be the devil.
Capricorns are stubborn.
Yep.
Earth signs.
Yep.
Occasionally people will tell me what mine is. Like, oh, okay, yeah.
Yep. I can so see it. Hubby's a Libra. He's the indecisive one. Jesse says, "Oh, I'm a Cancer. When is your birthday?"
My birthday is the 22nd. I'll be next week.
Next week, the 22nd.
Soon.
I was all excited for a minute because Final Fantasy 16 is supposed to release my birthday, and then I realized it's PS5 exclusive, and I won't be able to.
Oh.
Yeah, I saw you tweeting that.
That's terrible.
I count my age from when I transitioned. I'm 4.5 years old.
Nice. It's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
You know what? To that, somewhere around here, I have to find it. My dad gave me a birthday card last year that was a 3-year-old birthday card because it was 3 years old.
Oh,
It was the sweetest thing he'd ever.
Nice.
Oh, that would make me ugly cry. That's awesome.
It was really cute. It was really, really cute. It was like a mermaid card. It was adorable.
All right. Taylor Adams, what are your thoughts on non-trans people writing trans comics / stories?
My bad immediate answer is Brian Michael Bendis writing a trans story? But I don't have strong feelings.
You know, if they can portray it well and not make it don't make it tragic. My God,
please.
Yeah.
I'm tired of seeing trans people being like the tragic one, who's it's just miserable and hard, and it's old. But you know what? Like Jeff Jacks writes trans people in his comic all the time, and he's great at it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you do it well, it's great. But
I think
it's kind of like having same-sex marriage in a storyline, in my opinion. I love that it's there, but I also love when it isn't the space of the storyline. It's just there, and you notice it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a pinnacle point. It just is. And I think that's where a lot of us want to be as humans, is we just want to be. It doesn't have to be all over the place.
It can be hard because they really like to make it a focus. And,
yeah, I know.
And
I've been actively trying to do stuff with that. I know one story I've done in the past, where the change was a focus, but it was like, we're going to make this about corporate espionage and just try to put weight there. And another one that I have in the works, I have the intro done and someone drew it. It looks gorgeous. But it's about a thief. The whole thing is just a heist. She's trans, but all the focus is on the heist. So it's like, yeah, she's our main character. She's trans, but let's get back to the heist.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think that if somebody, if a cisgender writer includes trans people in their stories, that's great. But I think it starts to fall on its face when they try really hard to get into really intense emotions about being transgender, deep intimate experiences. If you're writing that, unless you live with transgender people in your life and they're a big part of your life, so you've seen that and you've experienced it vicariously through them, I don't think a cisgender person is able to capture what it actually feels. It'd be kind of there are people of color in my story, but if I were to start to go into the in-depth, intimate experiences of what it's like to be a Black person, I have no right doing that. Like, that's not my experience. I'm not going to cover it very well. But at the same time, yeah, I should have people of color in my comic. So I think it's the same sort of thing. Like, if you have transgender people in your comic, that's great if you're cis. But yeah, as soon as like, oh no, you have this. Let me portray the way it really feels to be trans to my readers.
Yeah,
You can't
and I
really
know
do
there's
that.
that element of like, I guess using language of the question, like a trans comic and a trans story versus a story that has trans people in it. Like, there are a couple different things there when you're like really highlighting like, all right, this is a story about a trans person, whether it's about their transition or just because, they're going to a rodeo, versus, a story that like, yes, their third best friend is trans. Like, those are like wildly different those stories.
Yeah.
Jesse, I agree. Ursula should not have been a villain. She was too awesome.
She can be a villain and awesome. Ursula's great.
I just love that she was all powerful and can look any way she wanted, and she wanted to be a fat octopus. I was there for that.
Damn right. Like that.
I was so there for that. Like, there's power. I love it. Oh, goodness gracious. We have extended our time, which I don't mind. I really appreciate you all three coming and sitting down and talking to me. Mel extends her, who usually is my co-host on these. She is in the middle of nowhere and has no Wi-Fi reception whatsoever. She tried driving out a little bit and it did not work. She's like, I'm going to miss everybody.
Okay.
So she loves everybody and she misses everybody. So thank you so much. I hope you all come back again. This is so much fun. I love it when you guys come and talk to me. So thank you. And thank you, audience, for participating and giving us your questions. And remember, down in the description are all the links to all the stuff. So go check that out. There's also a link to our Discord. So if you want to know what's actually going on Planet Flipside, you need to be part of the Discord because sometimes things get crazy. And there's also a disclaimer. The disclaimer is because I don't fucking care. We'll say what we want on the show. You just have to get over it. That was fun. I'll be back for sure. Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a magical night. Love out there to everyone. And thank you so much.
So yeah, Yaftik is definitely where my heart lies in the comics.
Yeah, if you want to get into voiceover, you got to do it because you love it. You can't do it because you want to be rich and famous, especially because you're legit doing a job that people don't know your face.
In my comic, there's a number of sentient computers and video game consoles that have happened over the years.
I should have a film. I thought it was going to be the end of this year. I think it's going to be next year. There should be a film called Badness coming.
I think we're up to 6 Star Wars children's books now that I've illustrated.
I'm here! The dork behind the drawing. No, don't look him directly in the face.
I draw cartoons for a living, and you can't tell me that the stuff that that we're producing nowadays is just for kids.
Kevin and Kel is now the longest running webcomic. I started in September 1995, and it's never missed a day since.
When I announced that I was voicing for Inuyasha's daughter, everyone was like, what? Like,
that was all well and good until, I was giving Phil a ride one day and he said, so how's your boyfriend? And I said, well, we're breaking up. And Phil said, oh, really?
Bye.